All right, everybody, welcome to Sports City Pizza Pub right here, 1407 Niagara Street. How you guys doing out there? Thanks a lot for coming out tonight. This is another Sal's House live podcast. We always love our friends here at Sports City Pizza Pub. I got Mike Rizzo walking around right now for everybody who's here to grab a raffle ticket. Everybody who's here can grab a raffle ticket, and we are going to be raffling off tonight some incredible items, Buffalo Sabres items, 05-06 season. We're going to be talking about the Sabres ahead of their reunion night. Got a great guest here, great guest panel. Tim Graham of The Athletic, Joe DiBiase, WGR Sports Radio 550. What's up, guys? How are you?
This first time this combination has ever been together in the same place at any time.
Yeah, I don't think we've been on the mic at the same time, so I'm excited.
Or in the same location at any time.
Yeah, we've run into each other here and there.
Maybe here.
The three of us?
Not the three of us. Definitely not the three of us.
All right, well, that's great. I'm glad we were able to do that here, and thank you very much for coming aboard.
Lindy Ruff's lines.
So you're the center?
Back in October, this would have been one of his lines.
Yes.
Well, listen, we are live at Sal Sports on YouTube, on Twitter, of course, X, on Facebook. If you have any comments, questions, you are more than welcome to get in. And we are going to take you all the way up pretty much to about when the Sabres play the Philadelphia Flyers tonight. A very big game for the 25-26 Sabres. Right now, just what, Joe, a point out of a playoff spot this morning?
Point out of a playoff spot. The points percentage is good, though. If you do it that way, they're above the two wildcard teams. So,
right,
but yeah, 1 point out with games in hand.
All right, and then tonight and tomorrow, Sabres play the Canadians tomorrow, right?
Yep.
So if they can somehow get a couple of wins here, that's really going to help this team along. But we are here tonight to talk about the 05-06 team because this guy here, Tim Graham, covered that team. Mm-hmm. And Joe over here was 11 years old.
Yes.
I mean, that's your formation of your sports teams. You know what I mean?
This is the prime of your sports life, I'd say.
No doubt about it.
Everyone's favorite team or favorite players were the ones that they had when they were 11 years old.
What got to be? Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about that. 11 years old. Who are you rooting for at 11 years old?
Let me do some math. That would have been 1982.
Okay.
So that was a really bad Cleveland Browns team. Mm-hmm. Brian Sipe was probably his last year, maybe going into the USFL. Charles White had won the Heisman and was freshly added to the team. Mm-hmm. That's about it. The Indians were awful as always, and I think a receding hairlined World Be Free had just been added to the Cleveland Cavaliers roster. Okay. Roughly about that.
11 years old for me was the first year of the back-to-back 2-14 Buffalo Bills.
Oof.
You'd wonder that maybe I would say I'm abandoning this crap, right?
Yeah.
2-14 in 84, 2-14 in 85.
Yeah.
The Sabres had come off a really nice run in the early 80s. And then again, they were pretty bad in 84, 85. That's Scotty Bowman is coming back to town, right?
Yeah.
Couple of names I try to remember now. I mean, Richie Dunn was still playing back then, but who am I thinking of? There was another guy who was a GM at the time, and he had come. There was a few guys in and out, but 11 years old. Gilbert Perreault was my guy, though, with the Sabres. Gilbert Perreault, obviously, 1984 at that time. The Bills were 1 year away from drafting Bruce Smith. They had just drafted Jim Kelly, and he didn't want to come.
Right.
83, he's playing in the USFL at the time, right?
Right. So Ferguson is still around then.
Fergie's still around. My guy was Jerry Butler, number 80. That's why I wore number 80 in high school. So 11 years old. Your sports fandom, what does it look like at the time?
I mean, at that point, it's funny because I'm born in 95. So I'm 4 years old when the Sabres make their cup run in 99 and 4 years old when we get home run throwback.
Oh my
so
gosh.
I'm a little young for both of those. Like my parents and grandparents will tell me like I was watching Game 6 right to the very end. Apparently they let me stay up, which I think is wild, but I don't remember it at all. So really, you think about it, like my first memories of like that I can remember are Bledsoe Bills teams or like Shatan Sabre teams that aren't making the playoffs. So I go really my sports life until I'm 11 without seeing a playoff game. So really, like that year was everything that we were seeing was brand new to me. I had never seen a good team like that.
Did you go to games?
Went to some games. That was more TV for me at that point. I was going to a couple games a year, but like I wasn't at the playoff games.
Okay, so before we get into more, and I want to talk to Tim about his entry point into covering the team and when that was. He covered the 05-06 team. Not only want to thank Sports City, we want to thank TSE Buffalo Total Sports Enterprises. That's who gave us all the great items we're going to raffle off tonight. If you're here, you have a chance. Come on down, 1407 Niagara Street. We'll be here tonight. and you still have a chance if you can see me and you're within that, this area somewhere on the west side or near the city, come on down. We
There
can
are
do
good
that.
ones too.
There you go. Oh my God. I know.
There's one over there that I'm like
Joe's
salivating over.
So how did you get that, Sal? I want that. You're right. We'll tell you about all those items in a minute. Plus, thank you very much to Herbal IQ, a New York State licensed dispensary. Great showroom. Go on over there. They're doing it right, everybody. Herbal IQ, 6300 Transit Road. So I want to thank all of them.
How do you know if they're doing it right?
So anyway, let me. They do a lot of great things. That's a space that's just so blowing up right now. You know what's funny? Like the marijuana and edibles and all that kind of space, they can't even like legally advertise on radio still, right? But something like this, like people watch, like, hey, let's go. I can tell you all about them. So go see my friends at Herbal IQ. They do a great job out there. Tim, who were you with at the time you covered the 05-06 Sabres, and how long had you been covering them?
So I came to Buffalo from Las Vegas in January of 2000. And the reason I left Las Vegas is because it was impossible, guaranteed never to happen, that city would ever get Major League Sports, of course. And it was just never, it was an impossibility. So I wanted to cover big league sports and came to Buffalo, though, as a colleges writer. I was the third guy on the Bills behind Mark Gaughan and Alan Wilson. And I was going to cover UB football and Big Four basketball. And then shortly after I arrived, the hockey writer Jim Kelly left for CBSSports.com, or no, I'm sorry, FoxSports.com. Mm-hmm. And the Sabres beat was open. Bucky Gleason became the hockey columnist. And so Bucky, leaving the Sabres beat, had an opening, and they moved me up to the Sabres beat. So you were talking about like when you were a kid in that run. So my first day, because I think Home Run Throwback was a Saturday game, my first day at the Buffalo News was the Monday after Home Run Throwback.
No way.
That's insane.
So they were only 6 months removed from no goal.
Right.
UB football was going from Division I AA to the MAC and was over. The UB basketball program was under NCAA investigation, and the coach had been fired. Reggie Witherspoon was the interim coach. And so it was a great time to be a Buffalo sports fan. I mean, I was like, hey, all right, let's get in there and cover these teams.
Yeah. You worked with some Titans at the Buffalo News at the time with Alan Wilson and Larry Felser and Jim Kelly. That's an amazing sports staff at the time.
Yeah, and we were full. I mean, we had the Buffalo News at the time was 2 editions a day. We had a morning edition and an afternoon edition. So we had people in the sports department pretty much 24 hours a day putting out papers. So copy editors. I mean, we had people like Bud Bailey, who is encyclopedic and, a great sports reporter and had formerly been a Sabres PR guy. He was one of our copy editors. Like, we were that deep. Milt Northrup, who is in the Greater Buffalo Sports Hall of Fame. He covered the Buffalo Braves. He was a copy editor at the time. Like, that's how loaded we were.
Unbelievable. And now, 20 years later, the Buffalo Sabres, still waiting for them to kind of reclaim some of the magic from the 05-06 season. Let's take it back to then. All right. What do you remember, Joe, about kind of your entry point to that team?
I remember that team getting hot in the winter. I don't know. I remember expectations not being very high. Like, I would have been treating that season as any other. Like, maybe you're optimistic as a kid, but I think I would have had enough wherewithal at that point to know that they weren't expected to be that good.
Sports Illustrated, when Sports Illustrated was Sports Illustrated, had the Sabres ranked dead last in their preseason power rankings coming out of the lockout.
Right. So then they get hot in the winter, and I think Marty is the goalie for a lot of that winning streak that they had, and it felt like you had something. I remember the crowd coming back, and you started to see a lot more sellouts. And I don't know, like, it was probably around the new year where I feel like I remember thinking, like, okay, this team is different. Like, they're high up in the standings. They're fun. They're scoring a million goals. And I don't know if I would have been there enough to understand like all the changes the league had really undergone, but I also was enjoying it. I mean, the high pace offense, the power plays that you got. I know you look back at some of those box scores and it's crazy. We're like 7 penalties were called in the first period and 6 in the second period. Like, they were really calling a lot. But yeah, like that winter win streak that they really went on, was my first indication, like, okay, this team is going to be a lot different.
The lockout was the year before that, right?
That's right. Okay, this was coming out of the lockout. New rules opened up the game.
What do you remember about the new rules, about the owners' meetings or anything like that kind of...
Well,
implemented?
It was so dominated on coming back to work, the labor agreement more so than the rules changes. The rules changes were almost secondary to, can there just be hockey? And the rules changes were almost like, well, we've hit the reset button on this league as it is. Let's try to get crazy. Not so crazy, but I think looking back, these were some radical things like shootouts and getting rid of the 2-line pass and,
obstruction was gone as a call, really.
They were going to really, really officiate, crack down on the officiating, on obstructions and the hookings and all these things to create. So there were going to be more power plays until the belief was, until they regulate it, everybody starts to learn. But this was where Darcy Regier and Lindy Ruff saw ahead of the curve. They looked at it and said, speed is going to be at a premium and size isn't going to matter nearly as much.
Right.
And so it went away from being that left wing lock. First team that scores I remember Lindy Ruff telling me a stat one time that the first team that scored won 87 or almost 90% of the time before the lockout. After the lockout, it was anything goes. 4-goal leads were not safe. And I recall, and I'm telling on myself a little bit here, and this may have actually been an 06-07 thing. These seasons kind of blur for me a little bit, the specific games.
Yeah.
But I was in Columbus. Columbus had a relatively new arena. Well, at the time, it was a brand new arena, and they had overbuilt the press box. It was luxurious. And so they had implemented individual press box for home and road media. You weren't in the same press box. Well, at the time, I was the only media that covered the Buffalo Sabres. So I was in this press box all by myself. There's 12 seats, and I'm sitting, and it's behind glass, and it's glass on either side. Now, sure enough, the Blue Jackets are up by 3 goals in the third period, and I'm kind of winging it a little bit here. But I'm writing my story, Sabres lose, and I'm focusing on the story, and I look up, and the score is tied, and I didn't even know it. Because we're behind glass, I can't hear the PA like you can always do, and the crowd's not reacting. And so I had to leave my press box, go down to the broadcast booth where Jim Lorentz and Rick Jeanneret were. And I'm like, well, how did this happen? And Rick and Jim Lorentz was like, well, this. I'm like, holy smokes. Yeah. So, and they ended up winning the game. That was a microcosm
of kind of how that year went, apparently,
there were comebacks all the time. I remember Briere goals at the end of games. There were Max goals at the end of games. I don't know what the number would be, but I would love to look back and find how many comeback wins they had. There were so many. There was definitely a belief at some point middle of the season, they were never out of a single game.
All right. Let's give away our first item here tonight. We're giving away a Rob Ray mini helmet. This is a signed Rob Ray mini helmet. Check this out, folks. All right. Signed Rob Ray mini helmet. Let's dig in here. Tim, want to grab a green ticket?
Certainly.
All right. If you have the green ticket number.
Do you want me to read it off?
Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
What do they all start with?
Ooh, I don't know.
All right, 786-517.
517. Who's got it?
517.
Hey, we got a winner over there. Come on up. 517. All right. You got a Rob Ray signed mini helmet. Come on over this way. Awesome. That is great.
With the visor on it, just like Rob wore.
What's your name? Isaac? Congratulations, Isaac. You got it. All right. Thank you very much. Isaac. All right. Come on down. You can win something. We'll be giving something away here in a little while. Great stuff to give away. Okay. The 05-06 team. That's the brawl, right? That's the Senators brawl. Right? It happened that year, the Senators brawl. Ray Emery and Marty Biron going at it. That's the Senators brawl year, right?
That's an 06. That's an 07.
07.
February 22nd.
They do it in 07. I'm sorry. See, you're right. They're blending.
I know that.
They're all blending. I
don't know why I know that.
The reason I brought it up is let's talk about goaltending. We all knew the Sabres here. Ryan Miller, obviously, fantastic. Marty Biron came up and was a fantastic goalie for them as well. But Ryan Miller was the guy. What do you remember about goaltending for that team?
By the way, Colin, your producer, looked up 11 comeback wins.
Amazing. I love it. Thank you, Colin. Thank you.
I remember. So Norton is still
Colin,
on the team.
Look up how many games each goalie played that year. Okay. Go ahead.
Because Mika Norton is still on the team at the beginning of that year. I think they trade him before the new year. They didn't get that far into the season. I remember Miller beginning that year, and he's a rookie, and he gets hurt. And that's, I think, when Marty goes on, they go on that run for a little bit.
Tied the record for most consecutive wins. 14 or something like that.
Yeah,
Marty did. It was Marty. The goaltender record, not the team record.
That's incredible to think how good Marty was that year.
Right. And I remember thinking, like, okay, which of the three, I don't know how much of this was like a real debate, but which of the three were they going to keep? Maybe it was always going to be Nornan.
Yep.
But I think it became pretty clear that they trusted Miller, and Marty was the veteran. So maybe you didn't want to, lose him yet, not knowing fully what Miller was. But I mean, same thing. Like New Year, you're seeing how good Miller is, and maybe a little bit after that. I remember wondering if they were going to rotate it all by the time they got the playoffs were rolling. I don't know. Remember, Tim, you remember that? Maybe it was
there's the stats
it was
right there,
known
Joe.
by
Look at
that
this.
point. But I remember wondering, like, was Marty going to get any playoff games? And it was Miller all the way.
Yeah, there was no rotation at all.
Okay.
It was Miller, and Lindy was big on riding his goaltender, just like he did Dominic Hasek. And then Marty,
he never gave them a reason to come out, Miller.
No. Then, Marty's first year after Dom was traded to the Red Wings, I want to say he started or played 72 games.
Wow.
So Lindy rode his guy. Now they had Baba Senza, who was lousy, was the backup goaltender, but that was Lindy had no problem riding his goaltender. There was no such thing as load management back then.
And Miller wasn't even like super young, because remember, he was in college and then he played a bunch of years in Rochester plus the lockout.
Right.
Like I think I've looked up when making comparisons like other guys. Maybe this was a thing when Devin Levi was coming up at like 21 a couple years ago. Like, well, you guys are trusting him to come at 21. All these Miller comparisons. Like Miller wasn't the full-time starter until that year, and I think that was his age 26 season.
And Miller,
so he's a little old for a
Miller
rookie.
wins the Hobie Baker, right? Comes in very, very highly decorated.
Yeah.
48 games played. Biron 35, Nornan 4. To me, you tell me, because I wasn't around these guys. It seems like they were very polar opposite personalities, Marty Biron and Ryan Miller. I mean, very quiet, reserved Ryan Miller, who still is today, it seems like. And Marty, who now makes his living talking about hockey.
Yeah.
An intensity that Ryan had. And I covered Hasek a little bit. I wouldn't say that I knew him well. I've gotten to know him a little bit more since he's retired than when he was a player. But Ryan Miller just had that intensity, just hard to really put into words. But that's how some of these guys are wired. That's how he got to where he is. Yep. He was a 5th round pick. He had a pedigreed background because his family is loaded with guys who went to the NHL. His cousins and his dads and his uncles, dads, I said plural, but like he's my 2 dads. But there are relatives all over the place that Millers that played in the NHL. But when he went to Michigan State, he was not supposed to be a great star, obviously, 5th round pick. And then he wins the Hobie after he was drafted. And then it was, hey, it's going to be Hasek and Miller. Marty was kind of not an afterthought, but because Miller stayed at Michigan State and didn't come out, Marty then became the workhorse, as I was talking about. And then that year in Rochester was probably going to be Miller's rookie year that he came out in 03 or 04, 05. And that is really what's given credit, that incubator of all these guys being forced to play together, and some NHL guys down there. I was talking with Nathan Page recently, and he made a point to say that is as good as the AHL will ever be, ever. It's greatest as it's ever been, and as great as it ever be, because it was guys who shouldn't have been there. It's guys who should have been in the NHL were playing in the AHL, and that year they won what is the version of the President's Trophy in the AHL. They had got eliminated in the second round because they had some injuries, but that team was really good. They played together, they learned how to win together, and Ryan Miller being that guy really is what I think, and that whole team is really what thrust them out of the lockout towards being as good as they were.
All right, let's move up a little bit to the guys who score. You are a big Max Affinagenoff fan.
Yep.
I mean, just tonight, you're here, but your wife actually is getting a jersey signed by Max Affinagenoff while you're here tonight.
I had a jersey in a case in our bar downstairs, so we took it out for today. She took it. She's not watching right now, but thank you. Because he doesn't come back to North America very often.
Right.
I mean, maybe ever. So this might be your one opportunity. And, that he was definitely my favorite player. It is funny about that team, though, that I felt like, at least from my perspective, everyone had their own favorite player. Like my brother, it was Marty and it was Roy. I have a friend who was a big Greer fan. Another friend who loved Jochen Hesch more than anybody in the world. Like
was he Lindy Ruff?
He might have been Lindy Ruff, but he was here a long time. it just everyone had your own favorite player, but I always felt like Max had the most fans like in my generation. Like if you played, tidbits hockey back then, or even, like floor hockey, whatever, if you were getting a jersey number handed out, there was a fight to get number 61 and that was just because he was fast and energetic. And like every time he would get the puck, especially when the crowd started getting big, every time he would touch the puck with speed, like everybody would stand up.
Well, so on that note, what I remember is, because if you were old enough to remember when Mogilny came to Buffalo, that was kind of like, I mean, we didn't know, but it's the next McGillney. It's this guy they got.
Yeah, and he certainly wasn't that good.
Right, exactly. But people thought, oh my God, they got another guy like that, right? He was super exciting, though, no doubt about it.
Right, and he led that team in points. He only probably led that team in points because Briere dealt with injuries that season. But I think, like, remembering that, like, everyone having their own guy, and just the way the team came together and the way they were winning, and then the way it happened all in the playoffs. Like, I don't remember anyone really having a sour opinion about any player on that team. Like, and that's how I remember it. Like, I look back on every single one of those guys and think of a play or a game or a memory, and like they're always positive. Like,
I have one.
You got one?
Okay.
Taylor Pyatt.
Okay. See,
People did not like Taylor Pyatt.
Okay.
Was he the guy involved in the LaFontaine deal?
No, he was in the Michael Pekka trade. He came with Tim Connolly, and he was massive.
Yes.
And people thought he was going to be the next Cam Neely.
Right.
And
the only thing I remember from him that season is he made the pass to Dumont in Game 3, but that's it. Like in 82 games, he was also would have been a healthy scratch a lot probably.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. All right, so this team is pretty much driven by Drury and Briere. What were they like as personalities to cover? Were they both captains in that year?
Yes.
Or was it not till the next year?
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, they were great, and I have said it before, so I'm not telling tales out of school. I think Danny Briere was the first star player that I dealt with who kind of trusted me as a reporter. And sometimes when you're young, it's hard for that to happen because there's a lot of distrust of the media to begin with. And then when a really good player, they have a tendency to kind of I don't want to say withdraw, but kind of not give out.
Very protective.
Yeah, protective is a great word for that. Kind of just get a little, and he was the opposite. He was just out there. He showed trust until you burned him, and he just he would explain things to me that a lot of players up until that point were reluctant to do. And I think that by him doing that, the other players followed suit because, like I said earlier, we were the only. Paul Hamilton traveled with the team too, but he was up in the booth and more. It was just a different scenario. And plus, I'd see these guys out on the road some that Paul wasn't a big go out type of guy, and I was, and I'd see these guys, and that it was that's where I learned to be a reporter. I think was covering that team, and it really stemmed from Lindy Ruff being the head coach, and learning how things are supposed to be and how they should be in a decorum and a protocol and a seriousness, but also not too serious because hey, it is just sports versus everybody. Like covering the NFL can be a little too self-important, and as guys get bigger and they get more entourages around them, you lose that. And I think that I know that we get that. I think with Josh now, he is not as accessible as he used to be, and I'm not complaining about that. But rookie Josh Allen was somebody you could have a conversation with at his locker stall for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And this guy, it's always everything's just ships passing in the night because you just don't have those times. I can't remember the last one-on-one interview I had with Josh. I think it's been, I talked to him probably for 3 minutes for a feature on Dion Dawkins. And beyond that, it's probably been years.
What was Drury like for that? Because he, especially now, like I've never heard him say a word about the Sabres since he left. And really, he doesn't ever, he does it because he's a GM.
Right.
But otherwise, like he wasn't somebody that's like, he's not out doing podcasts. He's not really doing a lot of one-on-ones that I see.
They've had reunion things among the players, not talking about a public thing or the team getting together, but the guys have tried to get this team back together in the past.
Right.
And Drury doesn't even respond to their texts.
Right.
But I think that's the edge. I think that this is a guy you talk about who's wired. I think that, he doesn't play for this team anymore. I don't know what it is with this guy. I don't have a connection with him, but at the time, he was a guy, again, and I think he's following Danny's lead. He would give me the interview, but it was also back then too, and it's a little different. This is the old sports writer thing. The captains it was their obligation. Like they had to, they were the spokesman of the team. And I could tell that Chris didn't enjoy it, but he would do it.
Right.
So, but then there comes a time where guys, if they don't necessarily feel that obligation anymore. But he and I had a very good relationship. And as you know, a lot of those things that came out after his departure about his contract deal and things like that comes from a certain trust of being able to tell that story.
And I'm sure that's part of the reason Joey doesn't talk as much about the Sabres, maybe the way it ended as well. All right, check this out, folks. How sweet is this? This is a Josh Stone signed goat head.
Yeah, love it.
Josh Stone.
91.
Josh Stone signed goat head. We're giving this away right now. Joe, you do the honors this time.
All right, let's
Grab
go.
a ticket. Give the read.
I should do it by Sabre numbers.
Here we go.
That's how you got to get the number.
If you have ticket number.
786503.
Oh, right here at this table. You get a signed
6503.
That
would be
6503.
maybe
Hi.
let's see if you can 65, maybe Denny Hamel.
Brian,
03 James Patrick.
Brian Flynn.
65.
Denny Hamel. That's
Love
why
it.
I didn't do Sabre. I couldn't think of it because Bryson's easy.
Denny-
but I couldn't think of a
Congratulations. What's your
65.
name?
Hamel
Denny
might have
Hamel.
been 55.
What's her name?
Brian Flynn?
No. What's her name?
No, was never getting that.
Laura, congratulations. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate
Okay.
that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, was never
Mark
getting any of
Napier. I
those.
remember Mark Napier for sure. All
Not
right.
a lot of
Okay.
65s.
We have some questions that came in for Tim, and I have some for you as well from some of our listeners and our viewers. By the way, we have 2,300 live viewers right now, so this is awesome. Thank you so much for coming out here. If you're here, thank you for watching Sports City Pizza Pub, 1407 Niagara Street. We're going to dig into some pizza and wings later, watching some hockey, Sabres, Flyers tonight. Thank you to Total Sports Enterprises, TSEBuffalo.com. Check out their private and public signings coming up. Herbal IQ, New York State Licensed Dispensary, 6300 Transit Row. Before we get to the questions, let's unfortunately talk about how the season ended in 05-06.
Yeah.
What do you remember about the series, the final game?
Well, it was. I don't know that I have them all in order, but I mean that was. I recall, and again, it was such a crazy, stress-filled period of covering that. I remember I got sick immediately in the press box. I don't mean like, but I could feel my body shutting down like after Game 7 against the Hurricanes in Raleigh, and it was just like a release of everything that had been built up. But all those injuries on defense, of course, the memory that sticks out, the two are from that game. It's the wraparound goal Jochen Hesch scored. That I thought these guys are just a team of destiny. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So they go into the third period with the lead, and then the puck getting lost in Rory Fitzpatrick's skates because it happened. Our press box in Raleigh is in the corner, and it's overlooking that end of the ice, and we could see it almost bird's eye view that he can't find the puck, and we all see it. And all right, I'll get my players mixed up. I don't know if it was Brindamore or Doug Waite, but somebody coming in from the boards.
I think it's Brindamore.
And you could just see him coming, and it was like, "Here, this is done. It's over right here." And he fished out the puck, and the goal was scored, and that was a backbreaker.
Yeah, that third period. I remember when they went up. I believed they were going to win right until Carolina went up by 2 goals, and maybe they went up by 2 with like 3 minutes to go, and. That's one of still to this day like one of the most demoralizing moments I can think of as a sports fan. Like that realization of, oh, they're not going to do it. Like they're not going to find that magic. They're not going to tie it with 10 seconds left because there had been so many magical moments along the way. We skipped over like the Philly series and the Ottawa series. There are so many of those that. Even though they were missing all of their defensemen and Connolly's not there and they're on the road and they're down, like I still believe they were going to win the game until I don't even remember who scores the second one.
I'm guessing you're 11. You're watching at home.
Yeah, I'm watching at home.
Okay.
Doug Janik scored one of the goals.
He scored one. That's right.
He was up from Rochester.
Yeah.
Hash got the second goal.
That was it. So they just
that was
scored
it
2
for
goals.
them.
So that was it. Yeah.
Who took the penalty over the glass?
Campbell.
Brian Campbell.
Delay
game.
They score on that power
That's the
play.
first year that's a penalty, by the way. That comes out. The lockout rules change that as well.
Yeah.
You shoot over the glass without a deflection.
And that's a penalty that has to get called. There's
That's
no
right.
like pass interference in the
That's
NFL
right.
at the end of the game where an official should be like, we shouldn't end it on this.
Right.
No
Whereas the puck goes over the glass, the puck's over the glass.
But I mean, you think of the fact they were even going into the third with the lead. That you have two of your regular defensemen in the lineup, and I'm pretty sure Campbell and Ludman would have played like over 30 minutes that night or around it. And like Fitzpatrick was an NHL defenseman, but he wasn't in every night during the season, if I remember correctly. But and you got Chilson, you've got Janik in the lineup. Nathan Pache is he 19?
No, he was older. He was a little older than that. But the thing that is amazing to me, and
he wasn't experienced.
I didn't realize it until I did a story on this. I did an oral history on this season maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know, whatever it was. And I was interviewing Pache about it. That was his first NHL road trip. He had never packed a bag for a road game in the NHL except until Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals.
Because of McKee?
Because of McKee.
Jay McKee has a staph infection, in case people are watching and they're a little younger and don't know. He's defenseman for the Sabres, very good defenseman. Staph infection, can't play in the game.
Yeah, that was – no, how about this? All right, well, we can quibble about it, but it makes it even more amazing. So, Pache, and that's the only NHL playoff game he ever plays in.
Wow.
So he's thinking, well, I'm going to get to do this all the time now. And so that's like a Dan Marino going to the Super Bowl type thing.
That's right.
Jay McKee, it's often reported not right. So you're forgiven because I've even had editors change it and I have to go back and tell them it was not a staph infection.
Okay.
It was even stranger than that. It was a strep infection. Like you get a strep throat.
Oh, wow.
You can get a strep infection anywhere. And he got a strep infection in his shin. And he had taken a block shot. It had opened up the skin and it was healing. And then something he got strep of all things.
Unbelievable.
Nobody, and so, but
was that the only game? Did he miss Game 6 too?
No, he played
only
6.
7.
Yeah.
It must have happened in Game 6 then. It must have happened in Game 6. All right, I have a story about that Game 7. First, though, we're going to give away. Check this out, folks. This is a Pat LaFontaine signed mini helmet. Okay, Mike Rizzo, you do the honors.
He did wear the visor.
Pat LaFontaine, come on over, Mike. Get in here if you want. Say hi. Mike Rizzo, owner, him and his family, Sports City Pizza Pub. Thank you, buddy.
Absolutely.
Great spot.
Time with this?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. It's always great having Sal, Tim, and Sneaky in here. Like, really, what more can you ask for? Come on down to 1407 Niagara Street. We're here to take care of you, as well as, Herbal IQ and TSC Buffalo. They're all great partners of Sal's house, and we're happy to be a part of them.
Thank you, buddy. What do you got here? All right. He's going to draw. This is for the Pat LaFontaine signed mini helmet. It is number
786520. 786520. We got a winner.
Somebody who looks like
We
he
got
saw
it?
Pat LaFontaine play a
Hey,
game or two.
there you go. Come on over. There you
Not
go.
wasted.
What's your name,
Not
sir?
wasted on youth.
Todd, congratulations. Here you go. Todd, that's yours. You grab it, buddy. Congratulations. We'll take the ticket. Thank you very much. All right. I love it. So I know that my wife, Yana, is watching and listening because she said, I can't wait for you to tell your story about this. I had been married 3 years, and my wife, who is from Germany, we had planned a trip to Europe.
Yeah.
That week. We're going that night, that day, Game 7.
Yeah.
So I'm literally actually it was Game 6 and 7, one or the other. We're in the air. Game 6, we were in the air. But this is before smartphones like we have today.
Yeah, so you're not
So I'm
watching.
in the air during Game 6 when who scores?
Briere.
Briere
in
scores.
overtime.
Briere in overtime.
Yeah.
And I had it set up where when I got to our connecting place, I would call on a payphone even a number to get a message on my phone that my friend. I told my friend, leave me a message on my phone.
That's unbelievable.
So so I could. Yeah, that's right. So I did that. And that's how I find out they're going to Game 7. Then
I don't know how y'all got around back then.
we get there. I couldn't watch in Germany Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals.
You should have been able to. Jochen Hecht was
Probably
on the
right.
team.
I know.
You go.
See?
Where was he from? Mannheim.
Yeah,
Just started
Yana
there.
knew that too. Yana's like she would always correct me. It's Hesh.
Hesh.
Well,
it's too late now. I'm not changing it.
She's at home saying it right now, but that's the true story. I never saw Game 6 or 7. I was in the air flying to Europe, and I was in Europe for Game 7. I can only try to keep track of what happened.
I remember thinking, I think whatever the first game in Buffalo would have been at the finals would have been on my birthday. Another reason why I'm like, oh, this is destiny. Like they're going to the finals.
All right, so
Yeah.
good question here. This comes in from Michael about what you were talking about. He said, how did the team react internally to the defenseman injuries? Was there a frustration as that series versus Carolina went on? Like, how were they handling it inside the building?
I think it was. I mean, I'm picturing it, and I'm kind of I'm channeling it right now. Like, what would be the best way to describe it? I think it was shock as they're happening, as though each one was so unbelievable and implausible that they didn't quite know how to compute it because it was absurd. And I recall Lindy Ruff at one point, we were talking about Jay McKee and the ongoing, for at least for 48 hours, he didn't make the trip. So we're like, okay, Jay McKee's not on. We first learned that Jay McKee's got a bad issue, but we don't know how bad because they're being protective of the privacy, and we just know it's a shin injury and that it's bad. And then he's not on the plane. And then can Jay McKee get on the plane? Is he going to fly commercial? Or how is he, he could still get to the game.
That's right.
He's not at the morning skate. And then but he can still get there, but the team knows he's not coming because, I've reported it since, like he was at Millard Suburban, like passing out because on IVs, and he couldn't delirious, thought he was going to die, thought he was going to lose his leg at one point. And we don't know this. But I recall at one point, it wasn't on the record or in the news conference, but it was like a side conversation Lindy was having with somebody, but reporters were around, and he was just laughing because it was like
so unbelievable.
They couldn't believe it. Yeah, so he's just like, you take a look at the lineup. Lindy Ruff thinking that he's going into a game 7 with all the defensemen that Joe mentioned. Jeff Chilson, Rory Fitzpatrick, Doug Janik, Nathan Page. It was absurd.
Question for both of you. Did you ever think watching, and this wouldn't be 506 for you, it would be as their careers went on, but for you when they played, all the guys that became GMs and coaches, did you ever think like, oh my God, like, what do you think about that? I guess
I think it's pretty wild. I mean, there's 3 of them right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any else that's on their way.
Could be more.
I mean, Miller is starting to get into the Sharks have a few of them on the staff now as scouts.
Well, the GMs are Briere and Drury. Jay McKee, though, is the head coach of the Brantford Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Right?
I always wondered about Miller because I remember his retirement press conference in Anaheim.
Yep.
And I remember someone asked him if he was interested in coaching, and he said no, but I might be interested in being a GM someday. I'm not sure he's ever talked about it since then. He just feel like I don't know, the way he's geared. I just feel like his temperament strikes me as like that's a GM in the future.
Did you get that from those guys?
No, absolutely not. I mean, you knew there was a ton of leaders, but and so I did when Grier became the general manager in San Jose, I did a story in which I talked to a lot of those guys, and they said, and they predicted at the time he was not attached with the team, but they said the guy who would absolutely be a great general manager was Thomas Vanek, and he's now employed. Brian Campbell is an assistant general manager.
That's right.
With the Chicago Blackhawks.
That's right.
We have Miroslav Shatan runs the Slovakian national team. He's there's a bunch of guys. I'm probably missing a couple.
And heck, I mean, for what it's worth,
Pominville's another one that they think could be a general manager someday. Miller, I think, is more. He's been NHL operations. He's more league. Gone that path of the league. But yeah, it's remarkable, these guys.
You might lose one too, though. The way the things are going with the Rangers. I wonder what Drury's rope is in New York.
Mike Grier's brother, Chris Grier, just lost his job. He was the GM of the Miami Dolphins in football. What a family! Tell me about the Grier family. Did you ever get to know them any further than?
Yeah, so Bobby was the general manager of the New England Patriots. Right. He was the guy when Bill Parcells gave his speech about. If they're going to have you cook the dinner, they should let you buy the groceries. Bobby Grier was the one buying the groceries.
That's right.
So that family goes back. But here's the thing that I think applies to the current, or at least the drought Sabres, that a lot of people don't remember, I think, about that team back then, is how much leadership was on there that didn't wear a letter. Yeah. So you had Briere and Drury sharing the captaincy. You had former captain Teppo Numminen was out. You had guys who were in roles who were amazing leaders. Mike Grier was known for his leadership. I don't know that he ever wore a letter. He might have had an A for a little bit, but I don't know that he did.
He might have had one when he came back for that second stint.
Maybe, you had guys who were going to be future captains like Vanek, like Pominville. There were just leaders all over the place. Your goalies, of course, which don't ever wear letters, but Marty Baron, the leader that he was and keeping guys loose. And he was the guy, that team would have been really tightly wound if it weren't for somebody like Marty Baron. But Tim Connolly, maybe I'm just throwing names out there because maybe not Tim. Tim was a cerebral guy, and he was underrated but he was also not a big vocal guy. But there was so much. Henrik Talinder, great leaders who you would never think, because people just want to say captain and the alternates. But there were guys who could do that job, who were maybe the seventh or eighth best leader on that team, would have been the best leader on 25 teams in the league.
Amazing stuff. Let's give something away here. We'll talk a little more. Alex Tuck, signed puck. How about that? Joe, show that out the screen there. I will draw. We got an Alex Tuck signed puck here. Here we go. We are looking for number 786516. 786516. Anybody? You got one away?
That's the table that got the Rob Ray helmet.
Right. Yeah.
You're on fire.
All right. We got a young lady over here. She's got. Ooh, are you wearing a jersey? Do you play hockey? What is it? Basketball. What's your name? Gertie. Congratulations, Gertie. All right. Look at that. An Alex Tuck signed puck. I love it. What does this note say?
He's got a note that Vanek went on to be the shortest tenured captain in NHL history, 26 games.
Really?
Him and Ott were co-captains, if I remember right. So he was a future leader. He also, Tim would know this probably better than I did. Was he not badly wanting the captaincy when they gave it to Pominville? I feel like I've heard maybe Paul told me a story.
My last game covering the Sabres when I left the Buffalo News to go cover the NFL was Drury and Briere's last game.
Okay, gotcha.
So I missed this part of it.
Gotcha. That would have been a couple years later. Yeah.
But yeah, Vanek, the other thing about Vanek too, when he came in, he was a healthy scratch that year in the postseason.
Yeah.
He was in the doghouse a lot. And he's a guy that at the end of his career had a totally different reputation at the beginning. He was known as he sulked a lot. He was kind of rude to fans when it came to things like autographs and pictures and things. He kind of coming from Minnesota like he did, and he was, a golden child, and I think he felt, like it was going to be a lot easier than it was, and that leadership group kind of put him in his place.
So somebody asked here, Joe, for you, what was the best line? It says you have Hish, Briere, and Dumont. I believe was a line. It was deadly. I think Max was on that line too. But do you remember how the line combinations went at all?
I remember what some of the popular ones were.
Okay.
I know Lindy. Lindy would juggle lines in the middle of games. The staple lines that I remember though were, and again, as Tim mentioned, like playoffs, this would have adjusted because Vanek wasn't playing much. Like there was a Roy, Vanek, and Finneganoff line throughout the regular season. They were even better the following year. But I remember that being my favorite line. I wouldn't say that was the best line. Vanek was a rookie at that point. Even though Finneganoff put up points, like he was wild, like in good and bad.
Yep.
And then Roy was pretty young too. The best line, I remember the best line being whoever Briere and Hesh were playing with.
Right.
And that became Pominville the next year. I think though in 05-06 it was more Dumont.
All right,
I feel like I remember a lot of Briere, Dumont, and Hesh.
Speaking of Pominville, that's game one, right? Ottawa is Pominville. That's the overtime goal, right?
Game one is Briere and double overtime.
Overtime. Oh, that's right. Against Philly. That's game one in Philly.
And that's also the Campbell hit that happens.
Which game is in Ottawa Pominville?
RJ Umberger hit.
Yeah.
What game is Ottawa Pominville
That's
scores?
Game 5. Game 5 in Ottawa.
They all run together. But the basic question is, can you pick one that was the defining game for this team, this era, and people look back on? Can you pick? You have the great call by RJ.
Yeah.
These guys are good, scary good. All that. You have a lot of different things.
I mentioned earlier, like I'm too young to really remember 99. So it's tough for me to top my first playoff game. Like game one, it wasn't like a ton of goals, but it gave you so much drama and edge of your seat. Sabres, I've looked back, like outshot them badly in that game because they were the better team. But the Campbell hit in the first overtime, which I still think is the greatest hit I've ever seen watching live hockey. Yep. Briere in overtime, the great call from RJ. Like I loved game one. I bet most popular answer would probably be the Pominville goal, though.
That yes, but I think the storyteller in me, as not a fan, but the heartbreaking romanticism of it, I think that Game 7 in Raleigh might be the game because it showed how close they were and how good they should have been and what they should have done. Now, Lindy Ruff had told me when I did that oral history on that season that was the one that got away. Not 99 and no goal where he went into Game 6 of the Stanley Cup final. Lindy Ruff views that team as the team that should have won the Stanley Cup and had the best shot to win it. That's something to say.
Yeah.
That the Sabres were up 1-0 after winning in Dallas in the Stanley Cup final. But Lindy looks back on
This
05,
team
06
should have been the one to do it.
That's if he was going to ever win a cup, he thought that should have been it.
I remember RJ telling a story that was he thought the best team that he had ever witnessed for the Sabres.
If they get past, they beat Edmonton, right? I mean, we're all pretty convinced
I think so.
they do beat
Dwayne
Edmonton,
Rollison
right?
was the goalie.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
Edmonton gets there somehow
If
from
they
the back
have-
end of the West.
Yeah, if they
They weren't
got
even that good.
any of the defensemen back, even like one of them, I think maybe without them, they even could have done it.
All right, so
by the way, I saw one in the chat. I think
go
we
ahead.
should absolutely mention Game 1 against Ottawa in the second round.
That's
That
what I was
game-
mentioning. Sorry, that's the one I was thinking of.
The
Yeah,
scorring changes at the end. Connolly
That's
scores
right.
with
Oh,
just
that's
over
right.
a minute left.
That's right.
And then that dumb smirk on why am I forgetting his name? I've
Alfredson?
never forgot his Smolinski. Thank you. He's giving
I
that like
love
a
it.
villain's
Thank you.
name. Smolinski standing behind the net with that smug smirk on his face after they took the lead for Connolly only to grab it right back. And then I think Drury scores like on the first shift of overtime to win 7-6. Like whenever that game, I like
Greer had
see
a
that
big
up on
goal in that
YouTube.
one, too. Did he
Yeah,
Greer?
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Like that game, just the back and forth was nuts.
we have a request for Tim Graham to share the funny story about convincing Derek Roy that reporters get traded.
Okay, so that was 06, 07.
Okay, that's okay, though.
Colin, I want to see if he can look this up because this is where, they hear when people have memory issues or memory loss, they can pull things out. I'm bad with lines, but something when they were talking about your favorite line,
Yeah.
and I think because Connolly, he was hurt. I think there was a fourth line of Mayer, Connolly, and Gaustad as a fourth line.
Okay.
I mean, and
Gaustad.
when you got
Wow.
that,
Yeah.
I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
Rookie,
I mean,
I
like
think.
you can throw the but that was, I think. Anywho,
Pominville got some forwards just because they had so many forwards.
Yes,
and when they were all
of course.
healthy, you never.
Pominville originally was
a rookie.
waived. Pominville
Yeah,
was
right,
originally
yeah.
waived, and anybody in the league could have had him.
Right.
And
well, that was Danny Briere's story. He was waived, I think, 3 times
that's
By the
amazing.
Coyotes. Yeah.
by the Coyotes. Everybody in the league could have had him, and then the Sabres get him for Chris Grant.
Chris Gratton. Yeah.
So 06, 07. So Marty Baron,
Great story
because of the goaltending situation that the Sabres had, not only we talked about it before. So they had to Hobie, and it's been this way for a long time. So there was a time when they had Hasek, Miller, Baron, and Noranen, all of them.
Oh my God.
And they trade Hasek, so now it's the 3. Now Noranen, what should be known about him is he was the Hockey News's Player of the Year. He was the first goaltender to ever do it, and the first player of any position to get that in back-to-back seasons. They're Player of the Future, like the Future Prospect Award, the best NHL prospect or whatever. Mika Noranen. And he couldn't get on the ice. He was actually dressing in the Bandits locker room because the goalie stalls, the situation, they didn't have room for 3 goalies to dress. So Mika Noranen he was insulted. Like he felt like he wasn't on the team. It was I did a story on that too a couple of years ago where I tracked him down. He's living in Dubai. That's a whole nother thing. But so they have all these goalies. And so it's a yearly thing around the deadline. Are the Sabres going to move one of these goalies to make room for whomever is coming up? And Marty and I had a really good relationship. Marty has a good relationship with anybody, but you get sick of asking these questions, right? And I just recall I was leaning up against the wall in the locker room, and I'm off the record talking to Marty, and I'm like, "Hey man, how you doing?" It's like 2 or 3 days from the trade deadline. He's like, "I'm doing all right." I'm like, "What do you think?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think this might be." Well, we're BSing, right?
Yeah.
And so then Marty, I think also because he also. As much as we get along, it's wearing on him. So he's trying to change the subject. So Marty says, well, where do you think you're getting traded, Tim? And me playing along in my sarcasm, I'm like, the Islanders are making a push under Ted Nolan. Newsday, they're not used to covering the playoffs, so they might want to add. And then from across the locker room, Derek Roy says, come on. And Marty and I just aren't breaking character. And he's like, reporters don't get traded. And I'm like, no, we do. And Marty's like, yeah, absolutely. And Marty even maybe invented a name or two. And I'm like, yeah, I think Boston Globe is maybe looking at me. And so then finally, Derek Roy starts buying into it. And he's like, I never would have thought this. And then finally, Jason Pominville, Marty and I both make eye contact with Jason Pominville. He's totally not buying it, but he hasn't said anything yet. And we both just lost it. And so that's it.
It's so funny though. And so How did Roy feel about that afterwards? Did he finally oh my God, I'm an idiot?
I don't think he didn't know what hit him. Like
Right,
it was
right,
like
right.
like Lindy when Jay McKee got the strep infection. I think he was just like, what do you? He didn't know whether we were now joking or if we had been joking. But there was a joke being played on him somewhere, and he didn't like it.
That's pretty amazing. All right, listen, we're getting closer to Sabres face-off tonight. We got one more big item we're going to give away here in just a little while. Joe, 05-06, your entry point, this team you love.
Yeah.
What are the feelings now in 25-26 from you?
For about this team?
Yeah.
Right now? I like what's going on the last 4 weeks. I think it's not even just that they're winning. I did a couple comparisons recently on the 10-game win streak in 2018 versus the 10-game win streak this year. And I think there are a lot of numbers that show that they were better this year. I feel like watching them, I mean, that team 7 years ago, almost all those wins were in overtime or in a shootout. Like they were close games. And they played a couple, but they won a couple games by 3. They won a couple games by 4. I think the depth of the lineup right now looks as good as it has in years. I mean, Noah Ostlund is showing up and looking like a pretty good rookie to me, and he's having a tough time getting above the 4th line or even a healthy scratch just because there's not as much opportunity, especially with the health up front. And I think maybe the biggest thing is Dahlin, you could debate right now, is he at his best? Like, he's still Dahlin, but, he's been a little sloppy at times. But even with that, like, the defensemen are all giving you the best play that I've seen from them in a Sabre uniform. Power, I think he's playing okay, but it's mostly Samuelsson and Byram. Like, the Samuelsson story this year to me is incredible, that he has gone from a guy that I thought was a realistic buyout option that didn't happen to now he looks like he's been the most consistent Sabre defenseman all year. He had scored 7 goals in his NHL career before this year. He scored 7 goals this year. I mean, you could tell me right now his offense disappears and he's just doing the defensive things and the physical things, and he's giving you the worth of that contract, let alone a 14-goal, 40-point pace.
I wonder, going back to Tim talking about Vanek, same coach here, Lindy Ruff, how much of an impact Lindy's had. So, Tim, that brings me to, I know you don't cover the team now, but you see the 30,000-foot view. Organizationally, the way they were set up then, and different owner then, versus what they're doing now or going through now, or the changes they've made now, maybe anything that you see that you either like or figure, it's not what it was.
That's a great question. It was totally different because you also had Larry Quinn as the president, who was very involved, almost like a VP of hockey operations, even though he really wasn't, but he fancied himself that. And he came in and kind of saved the team out of bankruptcy. Yep. He's the one who brought Golisano to the table to buy the team. And so Darcy and Lindy, I mean, you got to let Larry have his say on things.
Right.
So whether he meddled or not, the results were fine. So I guess everybody was cool with it. So I don't think it's anything that you need to replicate. One thing that I do find interesting, though, is the romanticism that you do have with ownership after a while. It's almost like jerseys. Like a lot, like the black and red jerseys. When I covered the team, everybody hated them. People hated them until it's gone for a while, and it's like, we never should have changed. Or the old Phoenix Coyotes jerseys with the desert, like the weird Picasso style
jerseys.
Yeah, and then the worst jerseys in hockey, and then they're gone for 10 years. Like, oh, how great that is to see them again.
I wanted the Bills to go back to white helmets, and now it was, go back to red. So white was what I knew growing up.
What you're saying is the slugs coming back is what you're saying.
Right. Probably at some point it will. It's like I had a teacher who used to tell me bell-bottom jeans would come back, and we'd laugh at him. And like, sure enough, they did. But I think Golisano's remembered that way. At the end, people couldn't wait to get rid of Golisano. He'd blown up, Drury and Briere had left, and they'd lost Brian Campbell and all these other, and it's like, get out of here. And now here it is all this time later. Man, what a great owner Tom Golisano was. Yeah. So I think when you ask me, like, what could you replicate? I think there are a lot of things that it doesn't matter. I don't think there's any one way to do it. But I will say that the credibility has been greatly enhanced with Jarmo Kekalainen. Yes. And I feel that malaise has lifted like a cloud of guys who aren't just showing up to work like they're putting in their time on the chain gang and hoping that at the trade deadline they get sent to a contender. Now they, I think, have this feeling like if something happens, we have a general manager who can go out and correct it or improve us or get rid of the thing that's dragging us down, as opposed to this status quo. There's hope.
Yeah. I didn't go I was living in Florida. What was the arena like on those nights, this team?
They weren't full but they were Sabres home games.
Yeah.
And that was the case before the lockout, too.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody went to Panthers games, Coyotes games, Lightning games. It was all transplants. Yeah. And the Sabres would score a goal, and it was as though the home team scored it.
Amazing. Tomorrow night, you're going to be there?
Yeah.
I'm going to be there tomorrow night. I'm bringing my son. He watches, and we're in the YouTube age now. My son, Max, watches the Max Finnegan dive across the ice. Like, that's his favorite goal of something he's never seen, right? So we're going to have a really great time. What are you expecting tomorrow night to be like inside the arena?
I think it's going to be, I mean, the Sabres, I think, ever since the Dominic Hasek jersey retirement, I think they've started nailing these ceremonies. Like, that one was tough. It was awkward. He's standing there like either by himself or like one other person, like his family wasn't out there. And then since then, RJ night was incredible. It's one of the all-time nights I remember being in the arena. Where they nailed Ryan Miller night, I thought. And I think a ceremony like this tomorrow, I don't know if it won't have the length, I'm sure, as like a jersey retirement like that. But I think the Sabres are doing a better job with presentation of these types of things. So I don't know. I wonder how they'll do it. They're going to announce players one by one. Like, I might be my guess, because I would love to just hear the ovation for each individual player. Yeah. You know, whether it's a Finnegan off or whether that's, you know, again, it kind of goes back to everyone had their own favorite player, and that's your time to kind of, it's like a high school graduation where the parent gets up like, that's my kid. Like, well, that's my favorite player tomorrow night. So I hope they do it that way, and I'm expecting it to be nostalgic and maybe even emotional. Like, I don't know if they'll have any, you know, like I saw a clip again this morning of RJ talking about that team and like almost got emotional about it. So I think there'll be some feelings tomorrow. I
have one more story to share. If I may.
Go ahead.
It's a little long, but you mentioned RJ and some of these names, and I've told the story on my podcast before, but because it's about 05-06, this absolutely was 05-06. So the Sabres that offseason trade for Tony Ludman. Now, all his life, he'd been Tony Lidman. And so I had numbers for all the guys, and I call up, you know, his countryman Mika Nornen, and he keeps talking about this Ludman. And I'm like, how do you say it? And he's like, it's pronounced, everybody says Lidman, but it's really Ludman. I'm like, no kidding. So I filed that away, and in the locker room, I'm asking him, I was like, is it Lidman or Ludman? He's like, well, really, it's Ludman, but everybody says Lidman, and I know, whatever. I'm like, well, you should go by your name. And so I remember also, Lindy also had a habit of mispronouncing names. Kotalik was a guy. Tallender.
That's what he was in the video.
Well, was it Tallender or Tallender? What was it?
Well, he was Tallender for a while,
wasn't he?
of it.
This is the RJ part of the story.
Great.
So I decide I'm going to go around the locker room, and with the exception of Ryan Miller or whomever, I'm going to ask everybody, how do you say your name?
Love it.
So sure enough, it's not Tallender, it's Tallender. It's not Kotalik, it's Kotalik. It's not Kalinin, as Lindy would say, it's Kalinin. And we would go around, and there were a bunch. And so I did a story about it and about how you're supposed to say everybody's name for real. And this is back when the Buffalo News traveled on the team charter. So I'm getting on the charter, and I used to sit up front with RJ and Jim Lorentz and those guys. And I hear, oh, here's this guy. He's got all the answers, because now I wrote a story that Rick Jeanneret has been saying. I didn't say that.
Right.
It was have been.
Right.
In Rick Jeanneret's mind, he now has been getting it wrong all these years. So he's busting my grapes a little bit. And here comes Talinder, gets on the plane, and he's like, oh, I guess you're Talinder now. And now he's like going down the thing. So then Jim Lorentz finally, to give me a break, Jim Lorentz says, you know, my name's really Lawrence. And I'm like, oh, that's a good one. He's like, no, really, my last name is Lawrence. And I said, well, then how did it become Lorentz? And he points across the aisle to Rick Jeanneret.
Oh my God, that's great.
And he says he thought it sounded better as Lorentz because it sounded French. So that's one of my favorite stories. However, so then Paul Hamilton, again, honest mistake. So Paul Hamilton is now starts calling him Talinder, which isn't right. It's Talinder.
Yes.
So he seems so now Jeanneret starts calling him Talinder.
And
then
stuck.
I said, it stuck. And the reason it stuck was I said, you know, Rick, it's not Talinder, it's Talinder. And he said, I've changed it once and I'm not going to change it again.
Wow.
So he was stuck with it for the.
Because you said Talinder earlier in our conversation. I'm like, I think you just pronounced Talinder wrong.
Oh,
it's Talinder.
Talinder, yes.
It's going to be 20 years, folks, 20 years.
Come
All right,
on.
here we go. Joe,
this is the one
really
right
wants this. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
No, it's okay. I'm gonna make sure I hook you up with TSE, because
look at this.
Our friends at TSE, Total Sports Enterprises. Okay, listen to this. This is a Marty Biron signed 0-0 jersey.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Why is it 0-0?
He played
His rookie year?
only his one game as a rookie
One
in
game?
95 or 96, unless he played another game. But his debut jersey was in 0-0 until they started telling him you're not allowed to do that. But he got into a game with it.
Colin, can you
The
draw a
NHL
name?
outlawed the number. You cannot wear
You
this
can't
number
wear
anymore.
0-0.
The Marty Biron rule?
This is a Marty Biron signed 0-0 jersey. All right, here we go. What number we got, Colin?
786515.
165.
Same table.
Come on.
Oh, it's all right. Different person, baby. Yes, different
They're
person.
hot.
No, they are hot. But there's
They're
like,
on
to
fire.
be fair, there's like 10 people at that table over there.
That's true.
What's your name? Ivy. Ivy, congratulations. 0-0 signed Marty Biron jersey. There you go. Congratulations. That was great. That was cool.
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to make
You
it tomorrow?
might be able to get that for
I know.
maybe
Maybe.
$40.
Maybe.
By the way, did you see
That's
Ivy?
low ball.
Don't take less than
I'll
100.
give you $38 right now.
You're flying out to Denver for the game? When are you going?
Friday morning,
Okay.
could not get
Nice.
a direct. Our company travel site crashed
Oh, wow.
in the
Wow.
fourth quarter when I decided I had enough courage to book
Oh.
of the fourth quarter of the Patriots game
Oh, okay.
when we knew for sure. And so, yeah, I'll be spending 7 hours.
You're going
in
to
the
try and make it
airport.
tomorrow night down to KeyBank?
No, I wasn't invited. No, I didn't
You
get
just crash it.
No, I have too
I'm
much
just
bills.
wondering if
too
you-
much
You know,
bills
if
work
it's a
to do.
reunion night, they should.
I know.
Why wouldn't everyone that
all the
covered
people
the
are-
team
we
in
should meet
07
John
that's
Vogel
around?
down there.
get
We need
Vogel
everybody
down
down
there. Get him down there.
If we're gonna do a reunion, like if John Vogel and I would meet the team at the Crocodile, then
Yeah.
that would, with Strictly Hip playing,
Okay.
All right, there you go.
then
There you
that
go.
would be how we covered the team.
And you'll be there tomorrow night, right? What are you doing on the
Yeah, I'll be
what's,
there.
what's going on the radio tomorrow to prep everybody?
Yeah.
WGR Sports Radio 550 tomorrow morning, Jeremy and Joe.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we'll still have a ton of Bills Broncos tomorrow, but
Yeah.
we're going to mix in a little bit on the Sabres. We're going to have JP Dumont
Okay.
on tomorrow. In fact, we were waiting on time. I could probably tell you that right now.
Another guy who could be
9 o'clock.
a future NHL coach or general manager.
Really?
Yeah,
JP Dumont?
in the Nashville
Yes, in the
Predators
Nashville organization.
So Dumont on tomorrow?
So we'll have him on at 9. He scored that winner game 3. We'll bring that up, I'm sure, and all the stories. So, and remember, he's only 05-06. He's not here that following year. So all his
Okay.
stories are just going to be from that.
Neither is
season
Jay
or
McKee.
before.
Right.
Jay McKee
Right,
is in
McKee's
St.
gone.
Louis the next year. That's
So is Greer. Those are the 3 big changes that I
yeah.
remember.
And then obviously the final year of Drury and Breer. Guys, thanks, man. This was awesome.
Yeah,
I
of
really
course.
appreciate
Thanks
you.
for asking me.
It was a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
it was really
Yeah,
cool.
a lot of
Thanks
fun.
a lot. Once again, everybody, don't forget Sports City Pizza Pub right here, 1407 Niagara Street. Pizza Ways, great spot to watch the games. It's going to be awesome watching the Sabres here as they continue on their run into, obviously, football playoffs. You got everything going on here at Sports City. Herbal IQ, 6300 Transit Road in Depew, the New York State Licensed Dispensary. And, of course, all of you for coming out. We have 3,200 live viewers tonight, guys. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Have a great night, everybody. Enjoy the game tonight. Sabres Flyers. Tomorrow, it's Sabres and Canadians reunion night at KeyBank Center.